This is Hannibal here. Numerous people are reporting that Kevin Nash has gone on the record saying Roman Reigns is allegedly making $15 million a year. I had heard in the past the highest paid was Brock Lesnar making $12 million a year, which I can only assume he's still under that contract and just not wrestling because he's a free agent. So he might be the highest paid per match right now because I think Roman Reigns has wrestled a little bit this year. But I think without a doubt, now more than ever in history, wrestlers are making more per match than ever. Because for one thing, WWE is hardly doing any house shows in the US or Canada. I mean, they're doing a 10-day holiday tour in the US, but other than that, there's nothing announced until some European house shows in the new year. AEW doesn't run any house shows. There is jobbers in AEW, low-level guys making minimum 150 a year that have wrestled like 7 times this year. So even like the lower level guys are making tens of thousands of dollars per match. So I wish I could get on that gravy train, I have to admit. Good for all of these people making all this money. Kenny Omega has returned to New Japan, but not AEW. I was listening to the Wrestling Observer Radio the other day. Dave Meltzer finds they're doing Wrestle Kingdom and then an AEW show the next night in Japan in January. And AEW is very cold right now. And New Japan is colder than it's ever been. Japanese wrestling in general is colder than it's ever been right now. And they're going to try and do 2 nights in a row at the Tokyo Dome. I don't think they'll be breaking any records. As far as the AEW Australia stadium show, it's not selling well. It'll be interesting to see how the AEW All In Texas pre-sale looks like. Apparently the stadium in Arlington is only going to be set up for about 35,000, but that's when you're like getting basically somewhere between 1,000 and 2,500 on average for your TV tapings. To get 35,000 into a stadium for a pay-per-view is quite a big endeavor, I guess you could call it. Dustin Rhodes, according to Dave Meltzer, is currently in renegotiations for his AEW contract. The WWE has their ID program now where they're signing indie wrestlers to minimal contracts. And there's like 4 wrestling schools involved with this: Rikishi's, the Nightmare Factory, one in New Hampshire, and Booker T's in Texas. They're getting a lot of publicity this weekend announcing all these people in the WWE ID program, but the main thing about this is they have the right of first refusal. So they sign these guys who they think might be future stars, but they don't want them to have the ability to go to AEW or New Japan or potential competitive companies. So they sign them to these. It's a good idea. I mean, AEW has a ton of wrestlers under contract that they're probably paying more than these WWE ID people. Maybe they should come up with a plan similar to the WWE plan where they're paying wrestlers lower amounts just to be under contract, but not necessarily paying them larger amounts of money to sit at home. I don't know. Oh, that's just an idea. The interesting thing about the WWE ID program is the Nightmare Factory is owned by Cody Rhodes and QT Marshall, who QT Marshall apparently said publicly he told Tony Khan he didn't know anything about this ID program. How could you be a co-owner of a wrestling school that's making a deal with WWE and have no idea about it? You got to think that's a lie. But QT, I guess, somehow is an executive in AEW, I guess through his original friendship with Cody Rhodes. Because otherwise I don't know what his qualifications would be to be an executive, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there, because that school is a WWID program school and they have a part owner of it that's an executive for AEW. Supposedly Cody Rhodes is moving the school closer to his house, so maybe they're going to separate. I don't know. But as far as Dustin Rhodes, you'd have to think WWE would possibly make him an offer, and maybe possibly include in that offer making his school a WWID school. I mean, to me, AEW is not making the most of Cody Rhodes' popularity right now by pushing Dustin Rhodes more. Yes, he is old, but he's still one of the top names of his company. And I've had a bad experience with him no showing on one of my events, not paying me back. So I'm not even saying that because I'm favoritism to Dustin. I'm glad he's changed his ways lately. But I do think that they should be making more, that his brother is like a top guy in the other company and they're really not doing much with him. They made him at one point, I don't know if he still is or not, the 6-man Ring of Honor tag team champions, which basically means nothing. I mean, there's two 6-man tag team championships in AEW. And please tell me, when in history of 6-man tag team championships ever been over? I like the Von Erichs, but I'd rather see them in AEW as tag team champions than 6-man tag team champions in the company that doesn't even have a TV show. There's lots of interest for the upcoming Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight next Friday night. It's expected to get a lot of views on Netflix. The Francis Ngannou versus Anthony Joshua boxing match that was put together through Saudi Arabia apparently did horrible numbers on pay-per-view. And I heard Dave Meltzer say they should have put that on free TV if they're putting all this money into making matches like that. But with the Saudi Arabia putting it on, they're so rich, they don't seem to care at all. Meltzer also said that AEW is considered very uncool right now, and they're not doing anything really to change their ways. They're still, and I agree with this. And I know Meltzer has different tastes in wrestling, but they seem to be continuously going down the path of like the Smart Mark catering path, and it just keeps turning everybody off. But the Smart Marks that are going to watch either way, and I mean, not all Smart Marks like the same style, and a lot of Smart Marks watch this show. I have nothing against them, but it seems like they should possibly be catering to a larger audience. Tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, I will be interviewing John the Berserker Nord. I was going to possibly interview Ronnie and Jimmy Garvin next week, but even though Jacques Rougeau was my trainer, I guess he wanted to take a cut of what I was going to pay them, and my offer wasn't enough. So I don't know. But the Berserker is one of my best guests ever. I'm sure I'll get Ronnie and Jimmy again down the road. And he will be returning and answering fan questions tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Have a great night.